Today I want to talk about buying a pre-built PC and some concerns people have. Whether you're buying from Dell or CyberPower PC or Alienware, whatever it is, people usually have some concerns. I'm going to talk about the big one right now. Specifically, people always have an issue with the quality of the PC. If you look online and you look on reviews of each company, you'll see that there's basically no PC corporation or anybody that sells computers or any high-tech equipment like computers has good reviews. It's always bad reviews. Customers complain tons. This doesn't mean anything about the company, whether it's CyberPower or PC. You'll see tons of videos online about them, but you'll see equally as many for any other company. Some people usually say like, oh, don't trust CyberPower PC, trust this other corporation. Don't trust Dell, trust this other corporation. The reason they do this is because they're paying a lot of money for a computer. And most people, when they pay a lot of money, they expect to get almost excellent, superb service, and they don't realize that for what they're buying it for cheap. Computers are expensive, and not just expensive; they're complicated devices. The science behind a computer is so complex that it's hard to understand. So it's really easy for these things to fail. People usually like to compare buying a PC to buying a Mac, but what they don't realize is that most Mac computers, the reason you're paying extra is because they've been designed in a way that failure is less likely, and the reason it's less likely is because you've lost your freedoms. This is the other issue with buying a computer. When you're buying a computer, you're buying it with multiple parts usually. One of those parts will likely fail. It's because, again, the equipment is extremely complicated. If you do not understand computers, you'll get into this problem, and then you'll complain to the company for selling you a brand new computer that basically broke instantly. It's not necessarily that it broke. Some of the times it's some software issue. If it's not a software issue, it could be more complicated, like maybe something in the motherboard's not connected correctly, or it may have gotten disconnected on shipment, which is very common, or the other likely possibility is that one product is malfunctioning. Now, when people send these computers back, they always argue that they're getting a refurbished computer. One of the things I need to point out is when you buy a brand new computer from some boutique PC maker or from even Dell, you're already basically getting refurbished parts. You don't know. It's impossible to know whether the parts that came in that computer are brand new or refurbished. Chances are they're refurbished, and the reason they're refurbished is because they basically are brand new. With computer parts, they're more like, I don't know how best to describe it, but they're just an equipment that goes into it. They're tested. They're basically brand new. But there's basically stacks of these things. They're in a warehouse, and people just pick it to build the computer. They don't know where it came from. They don't know if it's exactly brand new. There's not a box that these people get that they open and then they, like, if you go to, for instance, like Newegg or Amazon, you buy PC equipment, it all comes in a box. They don't buy that stuff and they build it. They get like shipped in multiple boxes and multiple, like, it's a giant shipment of parts, and then they just build it. So chances are some of those things are not exactly what you would consider completely brand new, but at the same time, you don't want that. You want a tested equipment that you know will work when you get it. It's relatively new, but you know it works. So that's why you usually end up getting refurbished parts. This isn't like when you send your cell phone into like a mobile company and they send you a refurbished phone, which has completely been used in other things. It's kind of slightly the same. And the reason is kind of the same basically because they're all parts. But you're not getting, like, when you buy these kinds of things, you're not getting a used mouse or a used thing or object that you interact with, which you do with a phone, unfortunately. So based on the parts on the PC itself, the tower, whatever you get, may be refurbished even from when you bought it. So you shouldn't be too concerned about getting refurbished parts back. That's just the way computers work for the most part. It sucks. The thing that you want to make sure if you do get something like that is make sure that your SSD drive or your hard drive hasn't been completely used, especially with the SSD drive, as it could wear out pretty quickly if it does. But these are just the things that you have to realize when you buy a computer, especially when you're buying something extremely expensive. Like you have to realize the technology itself is pretty advanced, and it's also it's there's a high chance of failure. You're not buying. It's like you're buying a car, but instead of paying the $10,000 to make sure that it's a perfect car, or I mean, like $30,000, you're buying the car for like $1,000, brand new. So it's bound to fail. These are really really technical things. Like if you're not gonna pay way more, that's just ridiculous prices, and no one's gonna buy it for. Don't expect quality like that. Yes, Apple gets away with it, but Apple gets away with it by taking away your freedoms. Most hardware on an Apple computer is basically soldered together. You can't take them apart. If one piece on an Apple computer fails, it'll break completely. But the chance of it failing is much less likely, simply because it's all printed on a board. And because it's all printed, it's already tested beforehand. So chances of that failing are very minimal. On top of that, usually getting outdated hardware. And when you get outdated hardware, it's already been tested. It's already been made sure that it's not going to fail. And that's why you get this illusion of getting something that withstands a lot of beating, and something that's not necessarily going to fail. Something that looks high quality, but it's basically not. When you're buying a high-end PC, you're basically making yourself like a tester for these products. But on top of that, you're buying the state-of-the-art. Those things, state-of-the-art things can break much more easily, but it's not necessarily a good thing. Or I'm not saying like it should be like this. It's just a fact about it. When you buy certain parts like this, especially when they all come disassembled, one of them has a chance of failure. Unfortunately, since every part needs to work in order for the equipment to work, if one aspect of it fails, it all fails. Unfortunately, and this is where you see most of the complaints for these kind of shops. It's so common that it's almost insane. Like you cannot, if you really don't understand computers and how to work with computers, you shouldn't be buying these computers like this. This is why you should probably build your own computer and realize how it works. Because if you don't, when you get them, you're gonna be pissed off. Like every other argument every complaint you see on these companies is that they sent me some computer that doesn't work. Because people basically expect it to work from right out of the box. They press that power button, they don't have to do anything. And they just refuse to understand and work with computers. If you're buying a computer, you have to realize that you're basically going to have to tinker with it every once in a while. It's not something that's just going to turn on all the time. You might be lucky and use it for a year without something failing. But to be honest, I've never had a PC that I bought where everything has worked for a long, long time. It's usually, the longest I think I've had one was the most recent computer I bought, and the hard drive lasted 4 years, almost 4 years, but then around the fourth, or I think it was even maybe the third year, it actually failed. It's common stuff, but like people, even though it's been 3 years, will ring up that company and they'll complain that their hard drive failed, and they don't have a warranty for it, and they don't understand that they think their whole computer is broken now. And that the company sold them some garbage that wasn't meant to last. That's not the thing at all. Like, you need to understand. It's not a refrigerator. People envision these things mostly like they would envision a refrigerator. Refrigerators that don't have such complicated parts, they're kind of complicated if you look at it, but not that complicated. So they tend to last quite a long time compared to your computer. The same with a TV. Like, people usually expect TVs to last much longer than that, but they don't understand how complicated computers are. I would make the argument that an Apple computer is more like a television, where all the parts are static and they cannot be changed, and basically they're less likely to fail than I would say a regular PC that you build, or one of these towers that you buy from a boutique company would be. And the reason for that is just simply because they're different products. One of them is designed to be multiple products working together, and the other one is just one product, one item, and it's less likely to fail because of that. When you have multiple interjoining parts like you would have on a PC, especially a high-end PC, something's gonna fail eventually. You don't know what that thing is. It could be a wire, it could be the motherboard, it could be anything. If what you really want to make sure is that your motherboard is not fried. If that thing is fried, there's a chance it could have fried everything else in your computer, and basically all your computer's trash. But sometimes even when that happens, you still can salvage certain things. So you need to make sure the motherboard, and on top of that, the CPU, these two things are basically the heart of your computer. You need these two things, and if they don't work, you can just basically forget about your whole computer. Luckily, with a PC, you can salvage parts like the hard drive and the other items on them. So if you do end up with a broken motherboard, you should check these other items individually in case they work. You can usually replace a motherboard kind of cheaply sometimes compared to just replacing the whole computer. The whole computer includes the graphics card if you have one, hard drives, and other things that will just cost you more money. So the neat part is that if you already have a computer, you might not need to upgrade these parts. Like you can just transfer it to another computer and save yourself some money. But the things I'm referring to specifically, just buying a whole tower PC from some company, and then what you should look out for. And the main issue is just look out that if you're buying something, you shouldn't expect it. If you don't know anything about computers, you shouldn't expect it to work for a long time. Something's gonna fail, and if you don't know how to fix it, then you should not be buying these things. Personally, I would say, because like you're gonna face it, and there's not much you can do. Like you can go out and maybe pay another company to try to fix your computer, but if you it would help you out much more. It will lower your stress levels and everything if you understand what might have happened and what you're seeing. The other things you have to watch out for specifically is you should look at what you're getting as well with a PC if you're buying it. So because most people don't realize that when you're buying these kinds of already pre-built computers, they're getting low quality hardware inside. Just do a quick Google check and see if the motherboard is up to what you want and what it is that you want. Like, if you want a computer that you can overclock, you should make sure that you buy a motherboard, or that your computer comes with a motherboard that allows that, or even a CPU that even allows that. You need to do your research. So if you don't know enough about computers, you probably should not buy a pre-built PC. Go with something else. If you're just looking for a laptop or something to work with, figure out what you need, what your needs are. If your needs, for instance, are just like typing and doing homework and stuff, you don't need a high-end PC. I wouldn't say go out and buy a $200 PC. A Chromebook might do it, but that depends on whether or not you actually have another computer or something to go with, because I feel like the Chromebook might limit you in some ways. But on top of that, if you just buy $200 PCs, most of the times they're kind of expensive for what you're getting. Sometimes you do see good deals where you do see like maybe a Pentium PC or something, or a laptop out there that actually will keep you going for quite long. I've had a Pentium laptop around here that's like 2 gigahertz. I've had it since 2012, and that PC has done pretty well. So it still runs quite well. I have not had many issues except for that hard drive failure that I talked about earlier. And that's about it. Like, for typing and doing some kinds of works, like sending emails and stuff and doing some work things, that's not going to be too complicated. You can read PDFs, you can work on like exams for school still. Even though the computer is already kind of old, it still works perfectly fine. So you don't need much more than that necessarily if that's what you're doing. If your workload's just basically what you could do on a cell phone, like that PC is not gonna be overkill at all. Like it'll handle some things slightly better than most cell phones even today. So like only in a more comfortable PC setting if you need that, but even then that's okay. But if you need a PC, if you want a PC for gaming, what I would recommend is that you look into like older PCs now that you can buy on eBay or something for much cheaper. Like you can buy an i5 Sandy Bridge edition like way cheap, especially if you go to government auctions and stuff. You sometimes find them for like $50 for two, and that'll hold you off. I would say until next year at the latest. Some games might not run on it anymore, but it's gonna be harder to find those than you might think. But if you want to, even if you have a Sandy Bridge, let's say i7, like the 2600K, you should be able to play all games, no problem. Like, they might not be running at 60 frames per second, all of them, but I think you can find a setting that, yeah, they will. In that case, I would say you can hold off buying a high-end PC unless you're competing or something with gaming. That should be plenty for another year. And that PC alone isn't that expensive, and it should hold you off until it should definitely hold you off until like Isolate comes out, which is the time I recommend for people to upgrade if they're serious about gaming. Unless you're going to be streaming. If you're going to be streaming as well, you need to upgrade to something at least like Ryzen 5 levels at this point, because like streaming on Twitch and other things is more consuming, but if you're gonna, again, if you're just willing to wait until Ice Lake, you can go maybe a little bit like an i7 from a little bit a few years ago, but it's gonna be more congested if you're really serious about streaming and it's already like a business for you, and you should not even be questioning this. Now you're in a different level. Now you're in a level where money is involved. If money is involved, and you need a PC right now, you should probably be looking at something with more cores. So you should probably be looking at the Intel Core i7 Coffee Lake Edition, the newest PC, the 8700K, because you're doing yourself a disfavor by cheapening out when work is important. Especially if you're planning on keeping this for a few years, you should maybe be good for another 2 or 3 years with the Coffee Lake if it's a business thing. But you need to be aware that Ice Lake is going to be an 8-core, 16-thread PC. So whether or not you should wait, you have to measure this out on whether or not you're making enough money and whether or not you're willing to wait. So there's another thing you should be looking at. Late in 2017, when it comes to boutique computer buying and stuff like this, prices haven't really gone down much since early 2017 when we were talking about 4-core, 8-thread PCs and stuff like that. And on top of that, GPUs have skyrocketed in prices because of mining and other things. So buying a gaming PC in 2000, and especially in late 2017, is probably a bad idea, I would say. You should probably hold off, specifically because prices haven't gone down. Prices are only going up. RAM prices are going up and all GPU prices are going up. And you're getting something that's going to be almost outdated sometime in 2018. Like early 2018, I would say, because the second NVIDIA drops their new cards, I'm guessing that's going to be sometime before the summer of 2018. Your whole computer is going to be outdated. It's already basically outdated if you buy something in late 2017 that's Kaby Lake or whatever before then. 4 cores, 8 threads is going to be basically, I'm going to argue it's going to be i3 levels in the future. So you're going to go from high end to basically entry level in less than like 3 months. Unfortunately, it's gonna be, PCs are rapidly, we're in a position where it's just gonna be a night and day transition, and this is why I've been holding off from buying a PC and why I've warned people they should hold off for now, because it's just in the transition level. Like Intel's business tactics, this is partially I would say because of Intel's business tactics, they've had the market for so long that they did not advance it, and now it's all coming, like the advancements are coming rapidly, simply because of competition. And there's not much you can do. You can either wait out the storm, or if you really need to buy something, and your money is the point of this, you should definitely go for it and buy something now. If you can wait, and if you're just basically doing gaming, you don't need such a powerful computer necessarily to hold you off until you can buy something better. Unless you're doing competitive gaming or something, again, which is money issues and stuff, then you should be looking at something way high end and spending as much money as possible. But if you're an enthusiast and you just want the best computer out there, then money can buy at the moment, just because you can enjoy it, you have to realize that you may get that now, but you're basically gonna enjoy it less than if you waited a few more months. If you wait just a few more months, if you're just an enthusiast PC gamer and then you want the best experience, in a few months from now, something's gonna come out that's just gonna blow everything out of the water, and you're gonna be like, that PC will now probably have to be updated for, I would say, another 5 years. And you can still game at some of the highest settings ever. You're not going to regret it at all. However, if you can replace the computer more rapidly and you don't have no worries, and you're a gaming enthusiast and you don't care about money, then go ahead, buy the Coffee Lake. But this video is basically not for you. This video is mostly just warning people that if they feel if they're an enthusiast gamer and they feel now is the time they should jump into buying PCs, they should be concerned about these things. On top of that, when you go to buy a boutique PC specifically, there's certain issues that you need to be worried about. And this will be true for many years to come. So the point of this video is to question what purchase you should do, but when it comes specifically with boutique PCs, you shouldn't be too worried that the company itself has lots of negative reviews or that you're seeing tons of bad press about them. Unless, of course, you're talking about something like when you're looking at the Alienware, for instance, or an Alienware laptop, there's a heating issue. And this is a good example of something you should look out for. When you have a heating issue on a laptop or any other equipment, you should look at it because usually it's something in the design. So if you buy something like this, you're gonna face that issue most likely. This is a design issue that cannot necessarily be fixed immediately. So there's not much you can do about it. So just look up those reviews and look for things like this. Gaming laptops are a different, completely different category. You have to look at what you're gonna get. Most of the builds are gonna be the same with the current Alienware laptop, the R4. Most of them have a heating issue. It's part of the reason is the heat sink. The design of the heat sink is not the best design ever, and it kind of traps a lot of heat into the system. So when you find this out, there's not really much of a fix. They technically said they fixed it, but many people still complain about the same issues, and the reason again is the design. They have to redesign the whole machine in order for that to be a worthy purchase. I wouldn't complain too much because I'm sure even if you buy that, you will still be happy with what you got. Most of the complaints are people being extra picky about certain things, and that's why the company always doesn't do much about the fix, because a lot of these people are extremely picky. Like they sold you a computer, and these people want, like, a lot of people want these computers to last like beyond what they're intended to last, and the PC maker is kind of like, they'll try to fix it, but the person is basically just being extra picky about certain, or nitpicking about little things about the computer. Whether it's like the heat's way high, yeah, you don't want the heat necessarily to be above 85 degrees Celsius, but maybe it's not always hitting that. It could hit it in a second, but these people, like, there's people that want it to be almost always perfect, and I can't blame them because you're spending a lot of money on this. So it's a logical thing. You should look out for it and you should try to fix it. But when it gets to the point where you're asking them to fix every little issue, like every little defect that the computer that you think is a defect on the computer, and it's just the way the computer's been designed, you have to realize that you should have probably bought something else, because it's just not, it's not logical that the company will fix it just for you, kind of thing. So unfortunately, just don't give the company money. Don't support those products is the best idea. You shouldn't want necessarily it just because you want an Alienware. Alienware doesn't have to give you an Alienware that you specifically want. Like it should be perfect, but chances are it's gonna be not perfect. Like, I've seen this. It doesn't matter which company it is. It goes with Apple as well. People will nitpick about everything. They have the exact same computer as someone else. Like, it's exactly identical, but they'll see some defect on it, and it needs to be fixed. Like, they demand that the company fixes it, and that happens so often. It happens so often with computers. It happens more often with computers because people think they're spending tons of money for something, and that tons of money that they're spending on it should equal perfection, basically, and that's not always the case. You have to realize that sometimes what you're getting is actually cheaper than what you would have gotten it otherwise. Like, if you wanted it perfect, then you have to pay way more, way more, and you're not willing to do that, so you really don't have much room to complain. I know this kind of sounds kind of shitty in that sense, because I'm usually for, like, things need to be perfect, especially when companies ship you things. Like, I'm still complaining about other products, like whether it comes from video game consoles and stuff, like, but the reality of it is that it's not necessarily going to happen. It's good that people complain, but sometimes they take it just way too far, where it's like everything is wrong and everything needs to be perfect. And in that sense, you have to realize what a computer is. Like, a computer isn't always perfect. It can't be. It's hardware working on such a high technical level that failures are going to happen, and you need to be educated about it. You need to know how this works in order to be happy with it. Otherwise, you're never going to be happy with anything that you get. It's always going to be wrong. There's always going to be faults. There's always going to be problems. So if you have a computer right now and you see something wrong with it, try to see whether or not that's something that you're seeing wrong. I understand dead pixels and stuff like that. That's a different issue. What I mean is like you get the computer and it doesn't necessarily turn on, or it's turning, or some lights are not coming on. Make sure it's something in the settings, or check whether or not some cable just came loose when you opened it or something. You need to know more about computers before you actually buy one, is my best advice that I can give people, because otherwise you're going to have a lot of heartache. You're going to get a lot of work that you don't want to go through, and it's just the way it is with the business. If you guys have any other issues that you face, just let me know in the comments below. I can help you try to fix them. I've worked with computers all my life. I work with computers now. I understand usually what might be going on. If you have an issue, maybe I can help you fix it. Just recently, my friend had an issue with their smartphone, and they're complaining that Sony makes terrible products, like because their phones were stuttering. Guess what? The issue was a settings issue. They had battery saver mode on, and they didn't realize it. So this is very common with all technical stuff. There's always a problem, but you need to analyze that problem and make sure that it's not something software or something that can be easily fixed before you go ahead and think the whole thing is trash. It's probably something, I wouldn't say it's something that you're doing wrong. That's the wrong way of looking at it. It's something that's something that you need to adjust. It's always something that you need to adjust. Not something that you need to adjust to, something that you need to adjust so that it works the way you want it to work. I hope this video has been helpful for you guys. If you have, again, any other questions, let me know in the comments below. If you want me to make another video about certain things as well, let me know. Personal issues and stuff, I'll answer them if I can. Anyways, guys, I'm signing out. Hope you have a good day. Good luck, guys. Bye.